Hello, it's me again. Welcome to Homeschool with Mrs. Simpson. Today I'm doing a little bit on adding and subtracting fractions. So we're going to look at all three different types of fractions today. The ones that have got a common denominator, like this first one here, where we have fifths on the bottom. So fifths work the same as apples. Here it says I've got 3 apples plus 1 apple, so that makes four apples. The bottom doesn't change, same as if you're adding up fruit, they don't change into something different. So if we've got 3 apples plus 1 apple, it makes 4 apples. Remember, the common denominator has to be there. They have to have the same number in common. They have to be the same thing. Our second one says we've got 3 apples plus 2, something different, 2 bananas in this case. So 3 apples plus 2 bananas. Well, we can't add those two together, so we need to change them to both be the same denominator on the bottom. So here, what do fifths and tenths both have in common? Well, we can turn them both to be tenths, can't we? We can turn this into tenths as well. So if we've changed our number 5 into our fifths into tenths, how do we do that? We'd have to double it on the bottom. So we do the same thing, we double on the top. So this will be 6 tenths. This one is already tenths, so we don't need to do anything, we can just keep it the same. So 6 tenths plus 2 tenths makes 8 tenths. We've changed the name of them. We've now got, instead of apples, we've got fruit. So 6 pieces of fruit plus 2 pieces of fruit gives us 8 pieces of fruit. Now, this is a special sort of fraction because they are both in the same times table. They're both in the 2 times table. So how many 2's are in the top? There are 4 2's in the top. How many 2's are in the bottom? There are 5 2's in the bottom. So we cancel down our fraction to its simplest form. The next one, we have 3 fifths plus 1/3. We have 2 completely different things again. We've got fifths and thirds. It's like having apples and bananas. So we can't add apples plus bananas, they'll just be apples plus bananas. So we need to rename them. We're going to rename our fifths and thirds. Now, apples and bananas, can we rename them as books? Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. Can we rename apples and bananas to be fruit? Does that make sense? Yes. So let's choose something that makes sense. What makes sense to turn fifths and thirds? What will they both turn into? Well, thirds will turn into sixths or ninths, won't they? But fifths won't. So we have to choose something that they will, in fact, both turn into. And in this particular case, they will both turn into 15ths. If you're having trouble deciding what to turn them into, often, if you just times them together, then they will give you your choice for the bottom. So 5 times 3 is 15. So that's an easy way to little cheat there for you. How do we turn 5 into 15? Well, we times it by 3. So we have to do the same thing to the top, otherwise our fraction's unbalanced. So whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top as well. So what's 3 times 3? Gives us 9 15ths. Over here, how do we turn this one into 15? Well, we had to times it by 5. Do the same to the top and we end up with 5 15ths. Now 9 15ths, 9 pieces of fruit, plus 5 pieces of fruit will give us 14 pieces of fruit. They're the same thing. Now we always check at the end, are they in the same times table like our previous one? No, they're not in the same times table, and so we can just leave it as 14 15ths as we get there. Now the next thing I want to show you is when things do go a little bit different, a little bit awry. So let's try another one here. What about when you've got, for example, let's go with 3/4 plus 4 fifths. So we have 2 fractions. They don't have a common denominator, so when we're going to add them up or subtract them, we have to find them a common denominator. So what will 4 and 5 both go into? So if you're having trouble thinking of it, you can just do 4 times 5, 20. So they will in fact both turn into 20ths. So I'm going to set them up as 2 blank fractions. Now I've had to times this one by 5, so I do the same to the top, and I have 15 20ths, same as 3/4. This one I'd have to times by 4, so I do the same to the top, and I have 16 20ths. Using our fruit idea, 15 pieces of fruit plus 16 pieces of fruit makes 31 pieces of fruit. And there's our final answer. However, when you look at this final answer, we can see that the fraction is what we call top heavy. It's an improper fraction. And we don't allow improper things in maths. We don't like it. We like everything to be nice and neat and properly done. Now, how many 20ths makes 1 whole? Who remembers that from their days when they were at normal school? So 20 20ths is 1 whole. So I've got 1 whole, I've got 20 20ths, and I've got more. I've got 11 more. So I've got 11 leftovers. 11 of my 20ths are left over. It's like saying I have a full bag and I've got 11 more left over. So if you have if we keep the fruit idea going, if we've got all these pieces of fruit, 1 full bag would be 20 out of 20. 1 full bag would be 20 out of 20. We'd have 11 left over out of our 20ths. Not quite a half a bag left. So 1 whole and 11 20ths. Let's try one more of those. Let's try 3/5 plus 2/3. So what will we go with on the bottom here? They're both completely different. I'm going to choose 15ths because 5 times 3 is 15 and makes it easy to think of. Times the bottom here by 3, do the same to the top. We have 9 15ths. This one we times by 5 to make 15, do the same to the top, 10 15ths. So 9 pieces of fruit plus 10 pieces of fruit makes 19 pieces of fruit. Notice we don't add the bottoms because they are just fruit. But we're top heavy. So to make 1 whole bag, we need 15 out of 15 to make 1 whole bag. How many remainders do we have? Well, we have 4 remaining, 4 out of the 15 that we chose. So 1 and 4/15 is our final answer. Okay, so now I've got a little activity that I'd like you to do, a little worksheet that you can do to practice those. They start with some easy and they start to get a bit harder as you go through, but don't worry about it. I'll give you the answers at the end. So I'm going to hold this up. You press pause, and then once you've done the worksheet, press play again and you'll be able to see the answers. Let me get those for you now. Here's your worksheet. I've made this up for you. Here's your worksheet, so I'll zoom in on that. So, oops. Okay, so there's your worksheet. Press pause and get as much of that done as you can now, please. Good luck. And the answers, if I turn over the page, and the answers are here. There we go. So check your work. Once you're done on that, give yourself a big pat on the back because you've practiced with adding with fractions. It works exactly the same with minusing, so we'll do some minusing practice with those in your workbook. Have fun, enjoy homeschooling, and I hope that gave you a nice lesson on fractions. Bye everybody, tick like at the bottom.